Once upon a time, in a small town nestled in the mountains, there was a house. It was an old, creaky house with a dark history. People whispered that it was haunted, and that strange things happened there at night. One summer, a family moved into the house. They were a young couple with two small children. The husband was a writer, and he thought that the isolation and quiet of the mountains would be the perfect setting for his next book. At first, everything seemed fine. The family settled into their new home, exploring the woods and enjoying the fresh mountain air. But as the nights grew longer and the darkness settled in, strange things began to happen. The husband would wake up in the middle of the night, feeling as though he was being watched. He would hear whispers in the darkness, and see shadows moving across the walls. His wife tried to reassure him, telling him that it was just his imagination. But then, the children started to see things too. They would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, claiming that they had seen a ghost in their room. The husband tried to rationalize it, telling himself that it was just a trick of the light or a figment of their imaginations. But as the days went on, the family became more and more convinced that something was not right about the house. They started to do some research, and what they found made their blood run cold. It turned out that the house had a dark history. Years ago, a family had lived there, and one night, they had all been brutally murdered. The killer was never found, and the house had sat abandoned for years before the young couple moved in. The husband became obsessed with the history of the house, reading everything he could find about the murders. He started to notice strange symbols carved into the walls and doors, symbols that he recognized from his research. He tried to convince his wife that they needed to leave, but she refused. She was convinced that they could make it work, that they could live in the house and create new memories that would override the old ones. But as the days went on, she started to see things too. She would catch glimpses of a figure in the shadows, a figure that seemed to be watching them. One night, the husband woke up to find his wife sitting up in bed, staring into the darkness. He asked her what was wrong, and she pointed to the corner of the room. "I saw her," she whispered. "I saw the ghost of the woman who was murdered here." The husband tried to reassure her, telling her that it was just a nightmare. But as he looked closer, he saw that there was something in the corner of the room. It was a figure, faint and ghostly, but undeniably there. The husband felt his heart race as the figure started to move towards them. He reached out to grab his wife, but she was frozen with fear. The figure came closer and closer, until it was standing right beside the bed. And then, just like that, it was gone. The husband and wife were left alone in the darkness, their hearts racing and their minds filled with fear. They knew then that they had to leave the house. They packed their bags and drove away, leaving the house and its dark history behind. But even now, years later, they still have nightmares about the house. They still wake up in the middle of the night, feeling as though they are being watched. And sometimes, they still catch glimpses of a faint, ghostly figure in the shadows, reminder of the horrors that they experienced in that old, creaky house in the mountains. Years passed, but the memories of that house never faded away for the couple. They tried to forget about it and move on with their lives, but something about that house had left a deep imprint on their souls. They had tried to sell the house, but no one wanted to buy it. People had heard about the dark history of the house, and they were afraid. The house sat abandoned once again, and the couple couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility for it. One night, the couple received a call from a desperate family who were looking for a place to stay. They had lost everything in a house fire, and they needed a temporary place to live. The couple hesitated at first, but eventually, they decided to let the family stay in the old house. They thought that it would be good for the house to have people living in it again, to fill it with new memories and new life. They hoped that it would be a chance for the house to shed its dark past and become a happy home once again. But as the family settled in, strange things started to happen once again. The husband would wake up in the middle of the night, feeling as though he was being watched. His wife would see shadows moving across the walls, and their children would wake up screaming in terror. The family tried to rationalize it at first, thinking that they were just adjusting to their new surroundings. But as the days went on, the strange occurrences became more and more frequent. They started to hear whispers in the darkness, and strange symbols started appearing on the walls and doors. The family became increasingly frightened, and they begged the couple to take them away from the house. But the couple was hesitant. They had a sense of responsibility towards the house, and they didn't want to abandon it once again. But as the situation grew more and more intense, the couple realized that they had made a mistake. They should never have let anyone else stay in that house, not after what had happened to them. They went to the house, determined to make things right. They wanted to cleanse the house, to rid it of whatever dark presence was haunting it. They had read about exorcisms and cleansing rituals, and they were willing to try anything to help the family. But as they entered the house, they knew that something was wrong. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, and they could feel a cold chill creeping up their spines. They started to perform the ritual, but they quickly realized that it was too late. The house was too far gone, too tainted by the darkness that had haunted it for so long. The couple was trapped in the house, unable to leave as the spirits of the murdered family and the other lost souls who had haunted the house for years closed in around them. They tried to fight, but they were overwhelmed. The spirits of the past were too powerful, and the couple was consumed by the darkness that had haunted the house for so long. And so, the house stood abandoned once again, its dark history still lingering in the air like a foul stench. No one ever went near the house again, and it stood as a reminder of the horrors that can happen when we ignore the past and try to rewrite history.